Hi, this is Seth Mosley, and we are on the Made It in Music podcast, and I'm here in Franklin, Tennessee at the Full Circle Music Studios with my friend John Marks of Spotify.
Good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time you're hearing,
You
viewing,
never know.
listening, whatever. Yeah.
We live in studios all day, as I'm sure you have spent a lot of time in studios.
Not like you, but yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be able to spend a few minutes every once in a while in a dark studio. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and you don't know whether it's morning, night, or afternoon. So
That is so true.
So happy to have you here today, and I've just been so looking forward to this conversation, not only as just my own curiosity. I've just got so many questions, so many questions, but just have been following your work for a long time, and just so appreciate what you're doing at Spotify to champion country music and really just to expand the genre. So first of all, just thank you.
I'll say you're welcome, but it's everybody, a lot of people doing a lot of work, and I'm one of them. Love what I do every day. It's what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah.
I got a whole team of people doing the same thing.
Yeah, so good. So let me go way back in time, and then we'll kind of circle back around to nowadays and Spotify and everything that's happening. But I want to zoom way back and ask, what was the first moment that you can remember that music impacted your life and you knew that you wanted to pursue it long term?
I know exactly that minute. I don't know how old I was. I was a little kid, child. And I was at the YMCA on Saturday afternoon, swim, run in the gym, do all that stuff on the weekends, get out of the house. And on the jukebox comes this dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, there you go.
And I heard that riff from Oh Pretty Woman, and I said, son of a gun, what is that? And I was hooked on music ever since. I probably was before, but I remember that moment like it was yesterday. Like, oh my God, this is wow.
So it was a literal jukebox.
And it was a literal jukebox. And it just fueled my interest in music from then to current day.
Yeah, and that took you, I imagine through many paths, but ultimately you ended up in radio. Can you tell me how that moment sort of led up to that? Like, why radio? Why was that the thing?
Because I wasn't talented enough to sing, dance, or play an instrument or write a song. And I realized that early on. It's like, who doesn't want to play a guitar and, all that stuff, right? I mean, that's just part of being a kid and, want to be a rock and roll star. Everybody wants that little slice of life. But I just realized early on I didn't have the talent, the stick-to-itiveness, the whatever it took to do that. And so, not to say, well, what do I not have to work so hard at? It's
Exactly.
not that. It's but it was, what can I do to be a part of the music industry, even though I can't functionally make music as such. And it kind of fed into radio kind of organically because I got started actually in radio through my high school. So that kind of opened a door, gateway, so to speak, to that world, and I haven't looked back.
That is awesome. Well, you obviously have the voice for it. So what was that journey when you made the decision to jump into radio? How did you achieve that? How did you land your first gig doing that?
It was I will say that it wasn't a job or a gig. It was, how I got in was my local radio station had a junior achievement company, and they would hire students. JA was about teaching entrepreneurship to children and school-age children. And so I applied for the local radio station, and we sold, we produced, we wrote, we booked guests, and created a 1-hour program every week on the local radio station. And we did that week after week until the company disbanded, and I went and knocked on the door and asked for a job, and they hired me. It was like, I don't know if anybody else asked for a job or not, but I did, and they put me right in. So it's, and so starting at 16, I was making my first paycheck, being on the air at my local radio station.
That's a rare thing, and that's in it was in Cincinnati, Ohio, right?
Cincinnati area, Middletown, Ohio, to be exact. That was my born and raised hometown. And WPFB in Middletown, Ohio.
Yeah, well, I'm from Circleville, so just down the road from you.
Exactly right.
And I believe you are familiar with the Pumpkin Show.
I love the Pumpkin Show. Haven't been back in ages.
Well, it's a good excuse. I'll join you going there sometime.
I want some pumpkin cheesecake, please.
I know, exactly. So started in Cincinnati. That took you all the way out to San Diego. You were at KSON out there, I believe.
Yes, and 2007, I was radioed, went to school, college, all that stuff, worked at local radio stations, moved about here, there, and everywhere. Last, radio stop on the FM side was KSON in San Diego in 2003, legendary radio station. One of the first FM stations, I want to be correct on the stat, or first country stations in the United States. They have some distinguishing characteristic. They've been on the air since like 1964, something like that. And so, legendary station, great country music station, and it was a great experience.
That's awesome. And that ultimately led you to Sirius XM, right? You said that was your last stop on the FM circuit. What was that like?
Well, it's like, it's like, I would just say it the way it is. I mean, FM radio wasn't challenging and fun anymore. I wasn't having a lot of fun. And it was a little too repetitive, a little too rote in terms of what you did and how you went about it. And so it just wasn't very challenging and fulfilling. So we were saying, well, we'll just go take a break, and we were going to go down to Utah and hang out with the grandkids for a little bit and, catch a little chill time, and had a random chance encounter at Country Radio Seminar with someone from Sirius XM. They said, they were telling me, they need somebody to look after their country properties, and they have like 12 channels of all these kind of different music forms that you can be involved with. And I said, really? Not just this one thing anymore? I can do 10 or 11 or more or whatever it is of country music, and I love all kinds of it. And so I went right after that. So out went the vacation plans, and somehow or other I got hired at Sirius XM and moved to Nashville in 2010 to work with them on their country properties.
So it sounds like you've just been a fan of country music for a long time. You mentioned working on kind of one format to being able to have 10 to 12 different things. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, it's like I was raised on country, but I was raised on country music. Mom and dad from Kentucky, and all of that, and country, bluegrass, southern gospel, black gospel, all of those forms of music from the rural areas and industrial area where I was raised in Ohio. That was kind of what people listened to, and
exactly.
So I feel like I was able to bring some depth to all of those forms at Sirius XM, and so it's always been that way. But hey, I was a rock and roller too. I wanted to play guitar like Eric Clapton or Hendrix or whoever it was at the time, and I went through my stuff with that too. But just for some reason or another, country was always the tug, and even in my college years, I focused on developing that, and I just kind of looked at it like, well, all these old DJs, like Ralph Emery and Charlie Douglas and whoever else was out there at the time. So I was looking at them, and I was a college kid, and I said, those guys have got to go away sometime, so I can just slide right in there.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I figured, and all at the rock and roll radio stations, there were kids my age, having a blast and playing their music. And so I figured, well, I'll age these guys out, and I'll have me a job that way. So at least I'll be on the air. That's really all I cared about at the time.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, and interested to hear your opinion on this, I feel like country has become the place genre-wise where the great guitar players live, and it's about, in a lot of cases, it's about rocking out, and like probably the people who would have maybe wound up in rock bands 10, 20 years ago, like they're in country now. Cause I don't know, is that
Oh, that's why I'm chuckling. No, it's like, hey, I mean, it's like you just kind of helped me realize, even though I kind of knew it, underneath us. Yeah, it's like we're back to rock and roll, in a good way. I mean, it's like they've taken elements of that and brought it into this music and broadened it and widened it, and I say hooray to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what was the journey like? What was the story that took you from Sirius to where you're at now at Spotify?
It was fantastic. The people there taught me how to approach radio less from a local level, which had been my life. I mean, I'd been serving local market communities and doing these things from the Kroger market or wherever. And the experience at Sirius XM over the 5 years I was there showed me that it's a big world out there, and Sirius XM, is only, like, I wouldn't say only, it's a large audience, a large swath of country, the United States and Canada, and it helped me think in a larger purpose, a larger frame in how music is exposed and how it's brought to listeners and consumers, and it really opened my eyes to that prospect and possibility of reaching a mass market with music, and really never felt it at the local level as I did at Sirius XM when I would have artists coming back to me and say, I don't have any radio airplay, and man, they're singing every word to my songs and all this kind of stuff, and from Canada and from whereversville, USA, and it was mind-blowing to see and hear these stories, and it was just fantastic to hear. So it opened my eyes up to all of that, and it was just a great experience to have worked there. As I started moving out, it's like my father was having health issues, and I was having to go back and forth, and it was easier to leave and manage that than stay at Sirius XM and phone it in. So I left there to manage that, and Spotify called me not soon after, and it was one of the more interesting calls I've ever had. Because I'd never thought of Spotify at all, and I said, that's a bunch of kids and code writers, on electric skateboards and stuff. What do they want me for? And so we kind of contemplated that idea for a minute, and they were telling me about what they were looking to do with their entertainment branding and all that, and it seemed like an interesting and fun challenge. And so here we are. It's all of those have been just really fantastic experiences, and Spotify continues to be as well. Yeah,
it's huge. So can you tell me, having been there for a bit now, why is Spotify so important to the modern music industry?
Well, it's very simple. It's just the primary way to get music to your fans. It's like there are still other ways, of course, the performing and downloads and all that, but people are consuming out of their devices now, and Spotify's right there with it, and I think that's the number one reason.
So can you talk about, I've heard you say this before, talk about Spotify as like the new retail storefront for artists. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, artists, I mean, these days and times, I think artists, it's really one of the best opportunities to be an artist right now and moving forward. So there are so many opportunities now that didn't exist even a couple of years ago, for that matter. And you look at, the path, which is, find a manager, do some demos, get a label, go on a radio tour, go on tour, and that was a formula that was basically and continues to be intact. But there are other ways now, thanks to digital, Spotify, and others, but to be able to do your own thing. It's like, as a matter of fact, it's really a goal of Spotify is to have as many artists who are just making a living off of their streaming and building their business and their brand off of that, and being able to own more of your own music. And so, we're all kind of motivated in that same degree. And it starts with the artist page, because that's kind of the let's call it the retail outlet for artist X and Y. And on there you can sell merch, have your tour dates, do your own playlists. Your songs are there, and it's kind of like directing store traffic. So you bring your fans into your store, let them see what you're doing, make them familiar with the music that you're making that's new and whatever's happening with the band. And it's really one primary way to certainly activate your fans and with Spotify at the same time.
I just want to reiterate that again, because I think a lot of artists don't even realize how powerful of a tool they have at their fingertips for selling merch, for going on tour and promoting their shows. And it seems like it's working.
Well, it's one of those direct to the consumer ideas, right? It's like you can go and say, hey, come to our place. You're right at home, and create awareness, build that bond between listener, fan, band, artist, singer, whoever it is, and it's probably today it's the most efficient way. It's like you have at your availability. When I say you're the artist, you have a worldwide audience at your disposal. All you need to do is get creative and find ways to be able to tap into that. And it's massive potential that when people I would trust start thinking about it, that it's like wherever a band's or artist's appeal is right now, coming from North Carolina or whatever, choose a state. That's just the beginning. That's just the pinpoint on a global backdrop that you can create for yourself.
And are you seeing artists take advantage of the platform and the analytics that they get from a standpoint of, let's say Raleigh, North Carolina is popping up big time as a Spotify consumption base. Are they going and doing a tour date there or doing an acoustic show or something for the fans in those markets? Or how is that working?
Short answer is yes. It's like we've had a lot of people who say, "Yeah, I just plan my tour dates around the Spotify hotspots," and it's good thinking. I think there are the typical large cities that have the large populations, but when you get into below that top 3 or 4, you can start saying, "Hey, I've got some hotspots in these cities and can develop out from here." And when you look at that way of developing artistry, it kind of harkens back to you're not old enough, but it's like back in the days in the 50s and 60s where that's what you did. It's like you took the box of 45s and looked for a radio antenna and stopped by and gave the disc away and tried to get it played. And I think it's in a sense it's kind of like that now, just in a more high tech way.
Yeah,
it just wasn't a random stop at a radio station, but you can be more designing in how you're going to approach your things like tour building and building your base and building out from certain strong markets. It's really a great tool if people choose to utilize it.
That's good. So we get questions from artists all the time asking about how they can best take advantage and make the most of the Spotify platform. So I want to dive into some specifics under that, if you're cool too.
Sure.
The first thing, can you just speak to maybe making great music? Is that
well, that's the number one rule.
Yeah.
It's like, and of course, everyone, thinks, their song is great, so there is not a darn thing wrong with that. But it's really it's the court of public opinion who I serve, and most everyone at Spotify serves. It doesn't matter at the end of the day what I think or what the artist thinks. In many respects, what's the consumer going to think when it gets to them, when it gets to their ears, and whatever your definition is or my definition doesn't really matter that much. It's whatever they think, and it's always interesting to see how all that formulates out in Spotify's data, and whatever that proverbial great song is, just make it.
That's good. It all starts with the song.
It starts with the song.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think so many people get caught up in the marketing and the algorithms and all this stuff, and kind of a lot of times forget to make great music. So I
think you're right.
Glad that you're in agreement there. The other thing that I've heard you say is to put your music everywhere.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we're in a time of global consumption, real time everything, and it's no different for an artist today, and hey, going back to proverbial North Carolina, it doesn't matter if your home base is North Carolina and that's where you're playing in a couple of bars right now. There's a worldwide marketplace that's waiting to hear your music. You need to be cognizant. All artists need to be cognizant of that case and not regionalize your music and make it available worldwide. Be ubiquitous. Be everywhere anybody can search for you. It would be wherever it is. Spotify, other digital providers, other video digital providers, wherever the music can be played is where you ought to be as an artist or seen.
Yeah.
Seen, heard, whatever, thought about.
Yes.
Anywhere
yes.
you can be.
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk about social media. What role should that play in as it relates to Spotify and promoting Spotify, but also just in the larger music business for an artist in general?
It's the most essential ingredient ever. And that is all there is to it. And all of those methods will ebb and flow. It's this week is platform A, it'll be platform B, but that's how people get the word about your music too, about where it is at Spotify. It's all through social media. It's where you can sell, especially as a fledgling artist and an arena artist, a stadium artist, sell tickets. All of those things are probably more possible now thanks to social media. I mean, nobody's watching. I shouldn't say nobody. There's still plenty of people watching wired TV, cable TV. I'm still one of them. But it's like those TV commercials don't sell tickets anymore. Sorry, TV. Yeah. Or any other commercials in other traditional medias. I'll just cover all the bases. It's about fans communicating with fans. It comes through the social media. It comes through Spotify. It comes to the artist page. All that is kind of a feedback mechanism to go back and forth. Hey, we just recorded a track, an acoustic track, from our new album. Go check it out. And Instagram over to Spotify, check it out. Come back and say, hey, it's a good way to not only provide feedback but awareness and consumption, which is the ultimate objective.
Yeah, that's great. So artists should be using their social media platforms to drive consumption on platforms like Spotify, correct? Is that what are some best practices? Like, what are some things that you see working that artists are doing to get people, to Spotify from social media?
It is 3 fundamental premises: save, share, follow. It's like, hey, fans, save me to your personal playlists. Save my song, save my EP, whatever, to your personal playlist. Share my music with your friends. Follow me as an artist. And those 3 things in creative, fun, and interesting ways can build following, build consumption, all on Spotify through the socials. And there are plenty of other people who have better ideas that specialize in that. But when I'm talking about basic 101 kind of stuff, that's where you start.
Yeah. So save, share, follow. SSF. That's easy to remember. I love it. That's great.
That's all you got to do.
Great tip.
That's it. That's everything.
Well, I think that's really helpful because a lot of people just think of posting their the smart URL or the link to the music, but don't necessarily think, okay, what if I created a social post that encouraged people not necessarily to follow or save this song, but like just follow my page in general.
Absolutely right. And absolutely. So you're following the artist really helps to it's not everything, but it leads into algorithmic, choices for Release Radar, Discover Weekly, all those things. So there are a lot of other areas beyond a fan punching a button on a song. It also feeds into algorithms inside Spotify that gets you outside of genre consideration and play, and also the algorithmic-driven playlists in general.
That's good. Can you talk a little bit about maybe vertical videos? How important are they on the platform? And are there any new developments that artists should be kind of aware of?
the vertical videos have been really popular and well responded to. I'm happy to say. I was a little nervous about it because any kind of change like that is to a listening experience is pretty dramatic. But it's been responded to very positively, and we're getting more requests for submissions than we ever have, and it's turned into a very popular and essential ingredient, in particular on the Hot Country playlist, and we're also doing it on New Boots and looking for ways to expand it. So it's done very well. It was a format when we started early on that people were wondering about, and now it's been adopted as more of a conventional technique. It's like Instagram now, and I even see television commercials. What little I see of it, sometimes in vertical. So it's becoming more of a utilized thing, and it's really for Spotify because. When you listen to your music, you're listening on your phone, and it's a vertical experience. And so the video should be the same thing, and that's kind of what drove Spotify to that decision, rightfully so. And so it's designed to be more of a one-on-one experience as opposed to a widescreen. Bigger than life experience. It's about let me look at Seth one-on-one, close up. Let me see what he looks like, what he sounds like. And those I think are the ones right now that are responding the best. And it's more like, hey, you're FaceTiming a friend.
And as far as artists creating them, I mean, is it the type of thing that you kind of want to see what songs work and gain traction, or is that something artists should be proactive about on the front end?
Yes to both, I think. It depends on where you are in the spectrum. It's like if you're a struggling artist and trying to make ends meet, and say, hey, what about a vertical? I'll suggest that they that they wait on an expenditure until we see if there's something in the song. And if there is, then maybe it's worth, it's a business decision they have to make. But after seeing that there's some possibility there, then we can come back to them and say maybe it's worth considering a video.
Yeah.
And I don't want to ever send somebody out like that. Sure. where it's not likely to work. But a lot of times we will get vertical videos with the songs. So some people want to do it that way. Others want to do the song and then release the video a little later. It's kind of like how it works in regular video right now. But I like having as much as possible, like having the videos together. I think it just creates impact. But sometimes,
meaning when they send the song to send it with.
Perhaps,
video?
Yeah. I'm only saying perhaps there.
Sure.
I'll say in close proximity, but I think there's sometimes licensing and other things get in the way of that. So it's just sometimes it's not a practical idea. But I like having them in. It's like in the high impact areas. I like having them together. I think it just makes more noise.
Sure, that's good.
Yeah.
And I've heard that there is maybe a new thing perhaps in the works, something Canvas. Is that the new tool?
Yes, you're informed, sir.
Hey, keep my ear to the ground on these things.
But Canvas is in beta right now, and it's an interesting idea, and it kind of goes into Spotify's idea of artists controlling their lives, their businesses, their consumption, and whatever. And it's these 8-second little GIFs that the artists can post and attach to their music. And so you can have one, or you can have several, I guess. It's in beta right now, and it's not in massive production, but I figure it will be at some point in time where an artist can go to their artist page at artist.spotify.com and upload a GIF onto their current song, and it's there. It's they can do it, they can control it, they can change it as often as they want, or never, and so it gives them an element of control on the music that they're putting out.
It's good.
More
I love
elements
it.
of control.
We'll look forward to hearing and seeing more about that as it progresses and picks up on the platform.
Likewise.
As we're kind of rounding off the conversation, what are a few things that you see artists maybe doing wrong when trying to grow on Spotify? Are there any, we talk about best practices. Are there any don't do these things that you've seen?
Well, it's like I want to have T-shirts made, and it's just like it's more of an inside joke industry. It's like playlisting is not a plan, and so that's the thing. And I get it. Playlisting is turbo fuel, to a song. I understand, but not everything. Life itself does not rest on getting playlisted, and I think that's the thing people need to, in broad general terms, understand that, because I hear it all the time. If I could only get on the playlist, and I said, well, that's just one element of many, many things that have to occur in order for you to develop as an artist. And there may be several things in place that haven't been looked at yet. And so I think that, kind of going back to, recording that great music and, having some social presence and all of those kind of things, people need to understand that they need to have a bit of a process in the brand that they're building as an artist, who they are, and all of these things, and then when all that comes together, and then you record that great music, then perhaps you're ready for playlisting. But I think that's the one misnomer, and it's like getting played on massive radio stations, right? So I understand it, but it's like not everybody's ready for that. At perhaps a moment they may think they are.
Yeah, and that's a tough conversation.
It is.
Yeah. So, should artists be? And this is a little bit of a sidebar, but just one I'm interested to know, and I'm sure a lot of other people are as well too. Should artists be using the Spotify ad platform to promote their music?
As a company man, I'll say yes. It's like.
Yeah.
It's like, and in truth, I really, that is not an area of my expertise. Sure. So I can't speak to it. I know many people who have used it with some degrees of satisfaction. But beyond that, I don't know.
That's a good, fair answer. Very fair answer. What about, are there people that are nowadays using Spotify as a research tool in terms of just, putting songs up, seeing how different ones react? Mm-hmm. Is that happening, and is that a good idea?
It has happened. It happens with varying degrees of regularity from time to time. So yes, I encourage it, actually. I think it depends on, do you really want to know the answer to the question? And so, sometimes people want, and some people say they do, and they don't really. So I think it just depends on, and I think a lot of people don't want to roll the dice, and they just kind of have their faith in their music and proceed forward, which I'm appreciative of. But yeah, it can be a mixed blessing. So, but I always say, let's give it a try, and let's do some stealth work on the song, put it in, see how it works, and put our heads together on what happened and didn't happen. From a data perspective, I encourage it from anyone who wants to give it a whirl within reason, of course.
Sure.
Labels have done it. A lot of independent artists have done it. And getting ready to embark on an interesting thing with an artist over the next month or so, 2 months, where we're going to research like 4 or 5 songs, I won't go into detail, and put them in similar scenarios and see which of the 5 do the best out of all 5. So it's like you're getting people who are creative about it and really want to use it as a tool, others who may or may not want to. So it's an interesting mix.
That's fascinating. And I would have to imagine that, we're making decisions more based off of data than just gut reactions or gut decisions, which I guess there's probably good and bad to that. But can you talk about what are some of the data points that people might not be aware of? Like how do we know if a song's working or not working?
We have some internal figures that we look at, but things that most people can see are, skips, complete ratio, saves. Those are fairly easy to see. Probably, if not on the artist page, in the the artist page.
Sure.
So you can kind of see those stats, and we have a couple of other things that we look at, and they're about among others about 5 things like that that we'll see to look at the reactivity of the song. Passion is like lean forward. Are you really leaning into the song, or are you not? So we're able to look at those things through our data internally. But skips are also a big part of it. Complete ratio saves indicates passion. Those are some primary indicators right there.
That's fascinating. I don't want to dwell on it terribly long, but I do feel like it's important to address purely, a little bit from selfish motivation. I am married to a woman. I have 2 daughters. I am so passionate about helping empower women in the music business, as I know you are too. Can you speak to maybe some of the ongoing just frustrations, I guess is the best way to say it, right? With women trying to break in to the country format in particular.
It's there's no denying it's a question. It needs a solution. If anybody has one, raise their hand. It's one of those things where it's a question without one right now. I think that there's certainly at Spotify and in the country space in general, we get out front of female talent. I'd probably have to say better than anyone out there right now. And if there's somebody better, I'd happily accept that. That would be fantastic.
Sure. Yeah.
And so if I don't know about it, then hey, let me know and we'll be partners. But
Sure.
But it's really how can we unlock that combination, whatever that combination is, for the female talent out there. If I had the answer, I'd be talking to you right now from my private island.
Sure.
But it's like, but here we are.
Sure.
But it's a fascinating question. All we can do as music people and editorial people right now is to find talent that's worth exposing, give them an opportunity to be heard, and let the consumers decide.
It's great. And at the end of the day, as a tastemaker or a curator, you can never dictate those things.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, exactly. You can't tell what people are going to like or not like. It's like, and it is a bit of a dilemma. All I do is hope that somewhere along the line, and we're beginning to see some of that. We're going to start seeing some females who are in the in kind of an undiscovered category, hopefully start bubbling up to the top, and somebody will crack the code.
It's good. So as we're rounding out the conversation, before we get into our lightning round, I just want to do a little bit of future casting, and you can decline to answer this question if you want, but it's 2025. What does Spotify look like? What does the future of Spotify look like?
Let me get Daniel Eck on the phone, please. Daniel, brother, I think it's going to be, and it's already happening that way. It's not going to be Netflix, where we'll have plenty of video content. We want to be, as Spotify, let's call it an audio provider, a number one audio provider. With podcasts, that's a big priority for us in 2019 and beyond. And I think Spotify is going to look just like that. Going to be a massive audio provider in maybe ways that I can't even contemplate right now. And I think the videos are going to play a continued role on that. But I don't know if we'll go into Sirius TV or not. That's a Daniel question. So
right, exactly.
But I'm not sure what the plans are there. But video will continue to be a part of that as well. But we're making a serious push into all things audio.
I love it. Well, are you ready for the lightning round?
Lightning round.
First question, is there a song that has done well on Spotify that maybe surprised you?
Yes, I think in a number of different ways. Over the years, I've been known to frequent the Palm restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee, right across from the Bridgestone Arena. For those not in town, I'm very much a regular there. Have been, always will be. Over my years at the Palm, server, friend would wait on us over the years, and one day on my way out, palms me a CD, and I have known this guy, gentleman, Austin Burke, for a few years. I've never whispered a word about him being an artist. And one day he sits me over with a CD, and he's got this song he's getting ready to release called "Sleeping Around." And I said, all right, played it. It's not bad. It's all right, Yeah. Okay. I'll give the kid a shot. I was like, let's see what happens. I was like, and wasn't expecting anything. And son of a gun, if that song doesn't have, it's got millions of streams. I don't know what the count is. It's look it up. "Sleeping Around" by Austin Burke. And he followed it up with a song called "Woke Up in Love" that also killed it on Spotify. And it's gotten his touring and record label prospects and all those things in higher gear. So that one surprised me in a very great way, and a fun way, and a happy way.
Well, that's great to hear.
That it's worked well for him, yes.
Awesome. So second question, do you have a top goal for this next year?
Yes, I want to see the international consumption of country music outside of the United States and Canada to continue to grow. It is increasing in popularity in unexpected markets like Germany, the Nordics, other places of the world. It's up 17% this year. I want to do more next year. It's important to get country music out to the world. It's perceived as a U.S. product and needs to be perceived as a global one, and that's my primary objective.
I love it. Good goal. Third question, favorite city that working in music has taken you to anywhere in the world?
My favorite city. Okay, yes, Sydney, Australia. Sydney was one of the most jaw-dropping, eye-opening, beautiful cities I've ever seen. And I haven't been out much, but Sydney, Australia, I would move there in a second.
It's nice there, yeah.
I'd move there in a second.
So nice. I love it.
Not this second.
Yes, exactly. So at some point in the future, maybe. We'll see. The next question, are you allowed to have a favorite artist?
I don't allow myself. But, there are some obvious favorites that, I will or won't mention, but it's like, but the God's honest truth cross my heart. I'm emotionally, anybody you see on my playlists and country playlists in Spotify, I'm emotionally invested in. I want to see all of them do well. I know what a place in those playlists mean, and I take it as seriously as they do. And my only objective is to see all of them be successful.
It's good. That is a good answer. And then last question, what was the first concert that you ever went to?
God, this is really going to set me back. Jeez. Sure, why not? It was Dayton's Hara Arena. I didn't drive yet. My father had to drive us to and from the concert, me and a friend. It was... Look them up. I guess they're still out there somewhere. Haystacks Balboa was The Children of Heaven, something or other. They had a song out back then. It was on album radio. Rod Stewart and the Faces when Ronnie Wood still played guitar for the Small Faces. And Eric Burden and War was the headliner. Spill the Wine, when they had Spill the Wine. That was before the War's solo stuff.
Awesome.
There you go.
Hey, I love it. I love it. So as we're closing out, I know a lot of people... you're a busy man. You're, helping to curate really a lot of the future of country music, and a lot of people I'm sure are, just begging to be able to get a coffee with you. But obviously that's not going to be the case for a lot of people out there, especially people just starting out. What is the best way that you can suggest, artists to get noticed, to get heard, whether it's by you, whether it's by any of the other curators?
It's really simple and true is, again, through the artist page is the new music submission system that Spotify has instituted. It's probably the most democratic way possible to get your music in the hands of all the music editors and curators that are out there. Everyone can see it. Everyone can listen to it. It's all in one place, so it's nice and neat and eliminates the need for phone calls and other things. And how an artist fills out that form is going to be directly proportional to who it gets in front of. So don't be lazy, fill out the entire form. But that's really the most efficient way to do it. Your songs and music will get out in front of everyone, and we can see everything coming up.
I love it. So closing out, are there any is there a piece of parting advice, parting wisdom, anything you'd like to leave with our listeners? It's
a business, it's work to be profitable. It's work to have fun and understand you're building a business.
It's great. Well, John, thank you so much for being here with us on the Made It in Music podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for hanging out on this YouTube video with us. In case you didn't know, this is from the Made It in Music podcast, Season 2. We have a ton of awesome guests that come on the show, all music business professionals, to share their knowledge and experience with you. So if you want to subscribe to not miss any future episodes, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and you'll be notified about all of them. And in case you didn't know, we do a deep dive for every episode where we go really in depth on a certain topic from each podcast episode. So sign up right here to get free unlimited access to all of those deep dives from our podcast. And if you want to watch another Made It in Music podcast video, click here.